When starting a new design in SpaceClaim, one of the first things you'll do is start to sketch out a new object. In the Design tab, we've grouped together all of our sketch tools into the Sketch group. And actually inside the Sketch group, we have two main sections. The section on the left will add curves to your sketch, while the section on the right will modify your sketch. These have tools such as trim and offset. To start off, we'll sketch a single rectangle. To do this, click on the Rectangle tool to start our sketch. Before we start, I'm going to want to define this rectangle from the center. Remember, for all of your tools, we'll have tool guides in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, as well as options to help modify what we're doing. I'm going to click once in the center of the screen. When sketching, clicking once will start the sketch. Then you can move your cursor on the screen to type in dimensions. When typing in dimensions, you can press the Tab key on the keyboard to switch from one dimension to the other. Not until you've had all your dimensions typed and it's what you want them to be, do you have to hit Enter to enter that dimension. Once I hit the Enter key on my keyboard, I've created that rectangle, and the dimensions stay on screen for editing. Additionally, you can go into the Curves folder in the structure tree and notice we have 4 lines created. In Sketch, as in all of SpaceClaim's tools, you're left in that particular tool until you choose to do something else. For example, next I'd like to sketch a circle, so I'll click the Circle tool. Notice now I'm sketching circles and it's letting me know what's going on in the status message in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Right now I'm snapping to the grid. As I hover over a curve, I'm snapping to the curve. As I hover over the center, I'm snapping to the midpoint of that curve. And when I get to the corner, I'm snapping to the endpoint. Again, clicking once will start your sketch. Then you can move your cursor to a different location or type in an exact value. Notice right now I'm snapping to the grid that's there. If I want this to be 25 millimeters, simply type 25 and hit Enter. Now you'll notice I've added a circle to the sketch, and it can be found right here. Now you don't have to sketch in this skewed location like I am now. Notice to get to a flat view, or a normal view, or a heads-up view, these are all different ways to describe it, I can do 2 different things. I can go to our mini toolbar at the bottom of the screen, which lets us quickly jump to 3D. It lets you select a new sketch plane. It lets you move the grid, or it lets you go into a plan view. This button for plan view is exactly the same as going to the Orient group in the top left-hand corner of the screen and clicking plan view. Notice I haven't switched tools yet, so I'm actually still sketching circles. If I click on the corner in the upper right-hand side of the sketch, I can sketch another circle. Notice what happens as I move my cursor and the circle on the right gets close to the circle on the left. The other circle highlights in green to indicate that it's the same size. Now once I'm at that same size circle, notice in the box it says 25 millimeters, I can simply click a second time to drop that circle. And if I do need to modify it, I can type into the box. If you're finished sketching circles or sketching a certain thing, there's 2 ways to get out of this tool. You can hit Escape on the keyboard to get you out of that particular tool, or if you're sketching circles, you can also hit the Select button. Both will get you out of this current tool which you're in. I'm going to sketch a few more things. Let's sketch a rectangle on the bottom. Again, I'm going to hover over the model and I'm going to start to snap to certain things. I'm going to click on the bottom left-hand corner and create a rectangle. Notice that it helps you to make a square by putting the center line to make sure that one side is 27, the other side is 27. I'm going to type in a distance of 5, tab to the second distance, and type 15, and hit Enter. Again, this has made 4 additional lines. Now, as you might know, I have 2 lines here that are overlapping. This is not something you have to worry about and not something you have to clean up in SpaceClaim. So don't worry about trimming that line. Let's sketch a rectangle on the other side. I'll click once to start. And notice as I start to move up, you see how it's snapping to this model over here. SpaceClaim tries to help snap to certain things in a sketch to make sketching easier. If you'd like to turn off or change these snap options, they can be done in the SpaceClaim options under the File menu. I'm going to make this 15 by 5. Notice that if you don't want to type the dimension in, you can move your cursor until those values show up and click a second time to set the rectangle. Now, you might have noticed that everything we've been creating so far has been symmetric. A lot of times people will sketch only one side of your sketch and have it mirrored to the other side. To do this, I commonly create a construction line. And what I'll do is make a construction line bisecting the model. Notice the green triangle near my cursor. By clicking on that green triangle, it'll let us snap to the center of the line. Also notice what the status message is going to stay in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. It says I'm currently snapping to the midpoint. Click once to start my sketch. Click a second time to end it. You'll notice that there's also a perpendicular icon to let you know that the line I'm making is perpendicular to the line going horizontal. Now that we have this construction line, what I'll want to do is switch this to be a mirror line. To do this, click the Select tool and right-click on the line. This will allow you to set this as a mirror line. A mirror line can be turned on, and if you right-click, a mirror line can be turned off. I'm going to right-click and turn this mirror line on again. What this means now is that anything I create on one side of the model will be created on the other side. Notice two quick sketches makes this on one side and makes this on the other side. To remove these, I'm simply going to undo by going to the Quick Access toolbar and pressing undo. Now that I've done this, I want to create a line coming from the center out. Now, if I click on line and want to sketch this, I don't need to make a line going from the center out, back up, and back to the center. I could not create this line, and I could start a certain distance from that line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start to use Cartesian dimensions to find out where this line should be. In the Options panel, if you click Cartesian dimension, you can set where you're defining the sketch to start from. Notice the base point I'm moving around with my cursor, and I'll click on the corner here of the mirror line and the bottom line that's there. You'll notice the line that I'm going to start to draw is going to be a certain distance from that corner. And you'll also notice near my cursor there's dimensions that are positive. If I move my cursor here, positive, negative, negative. So you'll want to make sure you type in positive and negative dimensions to start to drive this. I'm going to make this negative 15, tab, and the height should be 0. That makes sure the line that I'm making is going to be 15 millimeters from this line here. And actually, I meant to define this as a polar dimension. So at any point you can switch this from Cartesian to polar to determine whether you want x by y driving it or an angle by a dimension. I'm going to make the angle 120 degrees, and I'm going to make the distance 14 millimeters. So typing in 14 and hitting enter will make that line segment. Now I'll simply click to connect it to the center of the model again. Now if you're done sketching, remember, you can hit escape to cancel that sketch and escape a second time to go to the Select tool. So now that I've added these sketches in the center, what I'll want to do is add one more circle here. Now remember, if you click circle, you can click the Cartesian dimension or polar dimension to set where you're starting from, but a nice shortcut for this is to tap the Shift key. If you hover over something and quickly tap the Shift key, you will dimension from that location. So if I want a circle to be 23 millimeters to the right and negative 20 down, I'll simply type those numbers in and hit enter. Now I have a circle starting in that exact location. And this circle will be 16 millimeters. Now, I've made most of the sketch that I want there. The last thing for me to do is to modify this. Remember, the tools on the left will create new things in your sketch, and the tools on the right will modify your sketches. For example, let's say we want to offset some of these curves. I'll click on our Offset button and choose this circle. Remember, because the mirror line is still on, if I offset this line, it's offset on the other side as well. I'm going to type in 4 millimeters to create that offset. The last thing I'll do is use trim. Trim is located on the right of that group, and the shortcut is T for trim. When hovering over lines, you'll notice lines are automatically segmented into shorter sections. This is what it looks like with the trim tool on versus regular select. If I click trim, whatever line is highlighted green will automatically be removed from the model. So again, clicking a line automatically removes it and eliminates it from the design. Remember, because we're trimming and the mirror line is on, trimming on one side trims the other side as well. Now we've finished our sketch. The last thing we might want to do is to modify what the sketch is going to look like. To do this, there's a few ways. One way is to select on an object. Notice when you select on a circle, a dimension appears. This will let you type in to change the size, typing in 14 or 16. Also, if you click on the center of that, there's ways to quick drag to quickly change the location of something. I'm going to undo with Control Z because we probably want a little bit more control with our modifications. Notice clicking on a line will give us the dimension of the height, but not the dimension of the width. This is because, again, with dragging that dimension, we can drag it up or down if we want to make a change. However, you'll notice I don't have a lot of control if I'm moving it and dragging it left to right. I'm going to hit Escape to cancel this. What I'd like to do is have more control, and to do that, I'll use the Move tool. We'll look at Move a little bit later, but I thought it was important to show you how Move can be used in a sketch. I'm going to select on one line here, and our second line here by holding the Control key. Notice I have two curves in my selection. If I click the red arrow, I can now move this up or move this down to change the height of it. And if I type in a value like 2 millimeters, I've easily moved it up 2 millimeters, and I have a lot of control over that movement. I'm going to undo once. Now remember, I'm going to zoom in so we can see this a little bit better. From our selection, remember I can select on vertexes and lines and faces and edges. So now I'm going to Control select the two curves and the two curve points on either side. You'll notice when I click on the red arrow and I start to drag this up and down, the curve points are moving with the curve. This is why it's important to know what you're selecting on to determine how you want an object moved. Now what I'm going to do is quickly dimension this by using our ruler icon in our mini toolbar, or by clicking the ruler icon in the options. Again, I have what I've selected dimensioned, and I'm clicking where I'd like to dimension from. I'll type in 14 millimeters. Now let's look at this one more time. We've moved our line so it's a specific distance from the bottom. Let's say I Control select the two circles, 1 and 2. Now what I'm doing is I'm moving all of these objects at the same time. However, to control exactly where I'm moving and dimensioning one thing to another, It's common to grab the yellow ball and drag it to a new location, or choose our anchor tool guide and select on a new location. Now the move tool is on that circle as I'm moving it. And if I click that dimension button or that ruler button in the options, I can make a ruler from the bottom. So now the distance between the hole and the bottom is going to be a specific distance. I'm going to type in 28 millimeters. So we've looked at creating a sketch, we've looked at modifying a sketch, but now let's look at a few more things. What I want to look at is how to go from sketching to 3D. And there's two main ways to do this. They'll be using the 3D button inside the mode group to switch from our sketch mode to a 3D mode, or Pull will automatically take us there. And when we're going from sketch to 3D, all of the lines and curves will form surfaces provided they form closed boundaries. For instance, this was a closed boundary versus a line sticking off into space. And you'll also notice the duplicate edges and the lines we've created are not important. These will create just one single edge in 3D, which again, I can go to by either clicking the 3D mode button or Pull. Thank you for watching our sketch section. And remember, when sketching in SpaceClaim, you're creating curves in the structure tree. It's important to make these curves accurate as you sketch them, so you don't have to make modifications later on.